Hey, if you're looking for a simple way to texture your ceiling, maybe you skim coated it, got rid of your popcorn, got rid of another texture, well, I'm going to show you one of the simplest ways that you as a novice can texture your ceiling. And some of you pros, you might want to learn this too. Hey, welcome back to my channel. As always, here at That Kilted Guy Videos, I appreciate you guys stopping by. And what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you one of the simplest ways that you can texture your ceiling yourself. And it's called a Stomp Brush Texture. And it uses this little stomping brush right here. It's not hard at all. This is something that any of you can do. I'm just going to show you how to do it. And if you maybe have smoothed your ceiling out after a popcorn ceiling removal, or maybe you have gotten rid of another texture, or you've got new drywall up and you've finished it and you're ready to texture it, but you're not very good at hand textures or whatever. Well, this is one of the easiest ones to do if you don't want to spray on a texture. Spray textures are pretty easy. I've showed how to do orange peel in a detailed step-by-step fashion and knockdown texture. If you want to know how to do those, check out those videos. I'll put a link to them in the description down below. And I always put links to all these tools I use as well. So if you need to find any of those, check out the description right below this video. Now, to do a stomp brush texture, all it really takes is a paint roller. In this case, we're going to use this 18-inch roller. Like this paint roller here. This is an 18-inch one, and I recommend it if you're going to texture a lot because you want to get this spread out fairly quickly when you're doing it. And a 9-inch, you could do it with it, but you're going to go a little slower, and you can only go so far, and then you got to stop and apply the texture. So wider is better, and I'll put links to this down below too. There's two different styles of this. This is not my favorite style because this one can come loose. And the one I'm going to use is already in my bucket. You'll see it in a minute. It's a Purdy, and that's the one I'll link to in the description. Like this pole we're going to use. This is a Purdy pole. This is one of my favorites. It adjusts in any increment you want. It doesn't require the holes to lock into. Now, with this texture, you can do it multiple ways. You can actually do a really heavy one, like in this picture. And I don't recommend that unless you just really want it, because if you ever got to do a repair, that one's harder to match and you cannot clean it. It's so coarse that you just can't wipe it down. So I would go with something a little bit finer, like there's a couple of varieties here I'll show you on the screen. We're going to do a pretty light one because this house already has stomp brush texture all over, like right here on the wall, and it's really a nice light texture, and I'll show you how we're going to get that. And hey, if you like to learn these kind of skills like this, be sure and click that subscribe button. And if you click the bell icon right afterwards, YouTube will notify you each time we put out a new video so you won't miss anything. My goal here at That Kilted Guy Videos is to teach you guys how to do this stuff so that you can save money and take pride in your workmanship. And I teach you so that you can do it right. Now, I've been doing this for 35 years, nothing but drywall pretty much. I've done a little bit of everything, but 90% of my time has been in drywall. This is one we don't do a lot anymore, but it's still a viable texture, and it's really easy for you guys as novices, and I'll show you. So what we need today is this stomp brush, which you can get a single head. This was a single head, that's why these two look different. This is my old 20-year-old stomp head, and I wanted to do a double to do this whole ceiling. Normally I just use this for repairs. That's why I had a single. It's all cracked. It's been around a while. And I did have this part here where you screw the pole into. I had taken it and put it on another texturing tool I have. So I just converted this to a double, but you can buy these as a double or a single. Now, of course, you're going to get it done quicker with a double, but you can do it with a single. Now, the first thing you want to do is get the right shape for this brush. You notice how this one's flattened out all nice. If you buy it brand new, it's probably going to look like that. This one, because I use it, throw it in a box, it gets all gnarly looking. Well, if it does that, just take and soak it in some hot water and then just dry it or set it out on a flat surface on the floor, countertop, whatever, and get it to dry in that shape. And it doesn't have to be perfect, because once we start wetting this down with mud and everything, it's going to kind of take the shape we want, but that's all we need right there. Okay, now I want to mention too that if you wondered why that ceiling looks so white, it's because this already had a stomp brush texture on it, but it's been repaired numerous times and the other repair guys didn't really do a very good match, so it had this hodgepodge look. So one way to even out a texture is skim coat the whole thing, start again. We skim coated it. We didn't do a super smooth finish because this texture will hide what's left, but it's in pretty good shape. Now, if you want to see how to skim coat over a texture and get rid of it, there's other videos. I got 2 different videos that explain that. One takes it to level 5 and the last one just takes it to smooth enough for the next texture. Now, what we're using to texture today for materials is just standard old drywall mud. You could use Green Label all-purpose. I'm using the USG Plus 3 because that's what I use most often. So it looks like this. And what you want to do is thin it way down. Now, I've added roughly, for one box of mud or bucket of mud, I've added roughly, I would say, a quart or a little bit more, quite a bit of water because we want it fairly thin. So I'll show you here that this is pretty thin. Now what you want to do is experiment. I'm not even sure this is what I want. I don't do this texture very often just for repairs, so start out a little bit thicker, roll some on like a sample board or something, test the texture, see if it's what you want. The thinner the mud is, the thinner the texture is going to be. So just play with it and you'll see when you get the look you want. Now you'll see when I pour it out how thin it is too. This thing's already half full, so I didn't have to add much more. All right, now we're gonna roll it on, and you can't really roll this right up to the edge. So I'm not gonna worry about getting mud on the wall. You could mask it off if you don't wanna get any on there, but you can also come back and just wash it off with a sponge, even when it's dry. But if you get a lot on there, you probably wanna scrape it off while it's wet and then wash it off with a sponge afterwards. So let's roll a little bit on, test it. Now the first thing you want to do is put it on fairly heavy because we got to load this brush up. We're going to load it a little bit in there. We've got to get it loaded so that it's not dry, because in the beginning it'll not work very good. To get right up to the edges of the wall, you could break out a narrow 4-inch roller or even your 9-inch roller. Okay, let's see what that looks like. Okay, you can see I kind of loaded this up. It takes a little while to even this out, so in the beginning, worry about getting this loaded right, and that means we're going to stomp it around for a little bit, and that'll kind of even out the mud through the fibers and all. Okay, I got it loaded decent. I'm going to try a little more. That's actually a little heavier than I want. I'll show you what that looks like right now. Now, if you don't like how it came out, just roll right back over it. Start over. Oops, hit the button. Now, because I want this to be a lighter version of this texture, I'm going to roll it out thinner. You can thin the mud down or put it on thinner. Both will give you a lighter texture. So I'll show you what this looks like rolled on up close. Now let's go ahead and stomp this one. Now when you're stomping the texture, you want to basically just literally stomp it, but rotate it. You don't want to just go, you'll get this pattern if you do. So kind of rotate like this. Okay, that's a lot lighter. I'll show you what that looks like. So I would say that's much closer to what we're looking for. So now we'll just go ahead and roll it. You probably want to roll out a little bit more than each time, or a little bit more than this each time, but it depends if you got an 18-inch or 9-inch. But roll out a decent amount. Don't let it start drying behind you, or you're going to have heck getting any kind of texture in it. Okay, so you can see I got this much done. I actually filmed myself doing this. I went over and touched my camera. It shut off by itself and I lost everything. So that's the joys of being a solo YouTube operator. I do everything, camera, sound, everything, and sometimes things go wrong. So anyway, all you do here is just roll out. I rolled out with this 18-inch roller. I did this much in one shot. That's about the most you should do, especially over this raw drywall mud, because it sucks the moisture out. So this is roughly, I would say, 60 square feet. And then I turned around and did the stomp texture, and I'll show you more of that. I'm going to go ahead and film some more of it. But in case you're wondering why this much of it's done. Okay, one of the things I explained on the last scene that didn't come out is when you're putting this on, just in the beginning, just get some mud on the ceiling. Don't worry about getting it too even. Just get it on the ceiling as quick as you can. And then after you get it on a decent size, like 16 to 20 square feet, then we'll go ahead and smooth it out a little bit by going across it a few different directions. Be prepared to get rained on with drywall mud. It is a dirty job rolling mud on the ceiling. Okay, now we did that much. Now we could go ahead and smooth it out a little bit. You want to get it on here fairly even so that your texture comes out even. You don't want to have heavy texture in some areas and light in others. Now, you want to constantly overlap when you're doing this. Now, once you go over it like that and you think you've got it pretty decent, what you want to do is come back and look it over. If you see any kind of flat spots where the brush didn't hit it, didn't give a texture, just hit it again. Now, if it comes out really dry and you need to add a little bit, you can dip in here and get a little bit on your brush. You probably couldn't see that, but I just put a little on this edge because I see a spot here that needs a little extra. So it goes on heavy to start. We'll just work it around. That'll spread it out a little bit more. And there we go. We took care of that spot. Hey, if you like this video, I really appreciate comments down below because YouTube will show my video more the more you comment. That's called interaction. And I try and respond to everybody, so if you want to hear from me, comment down below. Let me know what you think of this. And if you think this is something you can do, or if you have any questions, feel free to answer. I'm pretty good about answering questions. And as always, I appreciate you guys stopping by. It means a lot to me. This is why I do this, to teach you guys how to do it right. And I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Take care, everybody.